So if you're asking yourself, why the heck do I keep attracting people who are constantly pushing and testing my boundaries? And the unpopular answer is that we don't like to hear is because you keep entertaining it and because you don't have a sense of healthy boundaries. And it doesn't necessarily mean you haven't been trying or doing the work. We can just be missing a few pieces there. And a lot of the part that we miss is that we make it about them when really it's about us. So boundaries are really all about a personal journey. It actually really doesn't have a lot to do with other people. It just sort of trickles out and extends into those relationships. So that can be kind of a tricky thing to understand, but really what we have to look at is these relationships where this is happening are propelling us to stand in our power. And that doesn't mean getting loud and aggressive. That's not necessarily what standing in your power means. But we have to look at the fact that this pattern and these dynamics are going to stay in your life until you stop entertaining them. The problem is your nervous system likes what's familiar and predictable. Even if it's toxic for you, even if it's unhealthy, your nervous system doesn't really have an understanding of that. It's looking for stability and safety, which it equates to predictability and familiarity. So a familiar toxic pattern is safety to your nervous system. So we have to rewire that. So in this process of healing, one of the biggest parts of change is understanding where these transactions are taking place, of poking and prodding and then entertaining it, and where you can start to shift that. But we have to be able to recognize it first. So we have to look inward and kind of do that deep inner work to understand our role in that. So a good question to ask yourself in these relationships, which are often really unhealthy and toxic, whether we want to admit it or not, is what is this relationship trying to show me? What is this repetitive agitation in all of my situations or some of my situations trying to show me? And so that can be a little hard to unpack. So if you're having trouble with that, and you feel like you've been putting the work in, but it's just not quite landing or sticking, and you just kind of need a little bit of tweaking maybe, and just kind of maybe to answer some questions about why you're not getting the results, even though you're putting the work in, it can be a little tricky. So I have developed a boundaries masterclass. It's called the Boundary Shift, and it's available in the link in my bio. So I definitely recommend checking that out. And I do have further support and help from there. But that's a really good place to start and just kind of dispel some myths and kind of maybe help you unpack a little bit of why the work you're doing isn't quite sticking or landing. So give that a check, and I hope to see you there.